In the last official bulletin of the Supreme Council of Cuba, 1889, is published a letter from Albert Pike, wherein he states, "Sometime since the Grand Orient of Spain, which has a Supreme Council of the 33rd within its bosom, entered into relations of amity with the Supreme Council of the United States of America, of which John J. Gorman is at present the Grand Commander, exchanged representatives, guarantees of friendships, and even went so far as to let Gorman and other members of his council honorary members. I repeat, honorary members of the Supreme Council of Spain. It is impossible for us not to see an act of hostility towards us and a formal declaration of no desire to maintain further relations of amity with us. Masonry originated in France, and that the first Supreme Council of the world was organized in France in 1756 under the control of the Grand Orient and Grand Council of France. They claim to be governed by the amended Constitution of 1762, which gave the law of the right and which had existed 24 years prior to the time. Albert Pike says originated with Frederick the Great. The Southern jurisdiction members refused to discuss the history or legitimacy of either or any Scottish rite, knowing full well, as many readily admit, that they never had a legal Masonic right to an existence of any kind. So let's speak about the history and who was the first to recognize United States jurisdiction. The Moorish Empire. Friendly relations have existed, however, since the Revolution. Our flag recognized by Emperor of Morocco as early as 1779, resolution by Congress. So in regards to the Moorish Empire, so exactly what are you claiming authority for or what to do? Because in regards to colonizing the Moorish Empire, you're using the Bible, kissing the Bible in your rituals. When Pike exclusively said, "You know, brother, that Bible's used to perpetrate all the stuff upon the people to hurt them." So again, exactly what are you trying to use an authority for? And France at the time was known for having a protectorate in the Moorish Empire, attempting to colonize as well. They had a consulate in the Moorish Empire, but a consulate is someone who is foreign in the land. United States was trying to hold on to anybody's coattail who had any kind of access to Moorish dominions, even Washington. It wasn't even allowed. France couldn't even come onto the land no further than 2 miles. And if they did, they had to be walked by a Moorish guard. So United States is claiming to have authority by people who's colonizing the Moorish Empire on coattails. Third party. But I'll show you what happened when Portugal and United States showed up in front of the Moors. I'm going to show you what happened if you want to speak about the history. The Moorish Empire has never been represented in the United States by an ambassador. And this fact adds additional interest to the announcement that the emperor of the most isolated of Mohammedan nations will be represented by a special embassy in the country at the time of the St. Louis Exposition. Ain't that what the Shriners say? They got their charter from the Moorish Science Temple at the World's Fair. Then you go look at the St. Louis Shriners, and the images within their literature has a turkey with a fez on, and it says Mola, and it has them eating the face off of someone, which is a traitor, that's what's going to happen to their faces. They're going to get ate off by the buzzards. When you look at their fezes, you see Islam and crescents all over because it comes from the Moorish Gnosis, the Moorish transcripts, which are inside of their great library of the Holy Ghost, the Moorish manuscripts. Yet friendly relations has existed between Washington and Fez from the time of the Revolution. A Moorish insult. That's what you all are. You are a Moorish insult. You want the knowledge from the Moors, but you want to kill the Moors off, but keep the beauty and brilliance in your hand clasped tight. You want to take the flower and pick it from the plant and keep it in your house and smell it and control the beauty and not just let the flower live. You're a Moorish insult. Refusal to recognize a United States consul. Tangier. Rizzo, the new Portuguese consul appointed to represent that country at Fez, and who also claims authority to represent the United States in a consular capacity, has presented his credentials to the Moorish government at Fez. The Moorish authorities rudely refused to recognize him and declined to grant him a residence in the capital, on the ground that foreign agents were only allowed to reside at the Moorish ports. can't even step on the land. So what are you over here claiming jurisdiction? The dominion and habitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa across the great Atlantis, even unto the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands before the great earthquake which caused the great Atlantic Ocean. The inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. In regards to Albert Pike going to what is called Canada, which is really Canaan land, Old Man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. His father Ham and his family were second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means a demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa. And you can go check out so-called Ethiopia, and they call it Axum, but it's Amexem, the dividing of the land between the Father and the Son, the dominion of Cush, northeast and southeast Africa. Northwest and southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. In later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. We can go on and on. I can put up Congress recordings of them speaking about the Quakers being the North and the South having slaves. And they came together, and the North knew that they was doing slavery in the South, and the South didn't like the Quakers, but they chose to unite anyway. And this was before the so-called Civil War and all of that. This transcript destroys, by the way, the claim of Albert Pike wanting to support and keep people in slavery, because they already knew in the North that there was slavery, and they still united with the South. And they also was sending Asiatics wherever they wanted to go, whether it was England or Jamaica. And then within a few months, they was living on the streets and asking people to help them get back to America, to their owner. So all of that was already went through before the so-called Civil War. Meanwhile, Albert Pike was around John Drew, who was known adepts of Moorish Gnosis because of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, connected with Eliza Turner and John Drew. And Prophet Noble Drew Ali had the true Moorish Gnosis. He was known as an Egyptian adept. He went to Egypt, came out under the legs of the Sphinx. That's where the Masons get the Morin, as far as the authority coming from Mr. Morin, because he had freckles of the Moors, the Morrisons, the Muslim sons, the Mussulmans, the mother's son, the Mason, the Mason. But to get to the bullet point, you're publicly admitting to being in concert with those who committed genocide against the Moorish Empire and true prophets that was thoughts of Allah manifest in flesh to bring the truth to the whole world, to live in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, man. I'm not doing this because I see you as an enemy yet, because there's a way out. But if you take this plow, you can't turn back. But if you choose to take this plow, you'll be saved. The European asked Noble Drew Ali, will we be saved this time? Noble Drew Ali said, if you're going to be saved, it will be through them. And he was talking about the Moors. Just think about it. Why are you keeping things secret? The keys was loosened. You see them waking up. You want to be the one they look at that try to hide it? They'll tear your temples away brick by brick. But you don't even have the Gnosis to give them, even if they wanted it. You done went dormant. But you can come get this 720, this 360, because it's a known fact. They're talking about you don't go above 32 or 33. Brother, there is 90, there's 360, there's 720. Origin of degrees undefined. And they're speaking to your Muslim, or I'm sorry, your Mason scholars, and they're saying the origin of degrees is undefined, as we have no well and accurately defined knowledge as to the origin of the 25 degrees of the right of perfection. 25, 5 on the left, 2 on the right. That's the Moorish prayer. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. The 7 is the perfection of man, drawing the circle around your passions. That these higher degrees existed is undeniable, because in the Grand Constitution of 1786, it was ordered in creating the ancient and accepted right of 33 degrees, that there should be taken in addition to those of the first of the right, which must have meant the degrees of perfection. Certain additions, degrees of the hierarchy of the other rights mentioned therein. Your own scholars say you're not reliable. You got specific degrees, and I told you it goes up to 360, 720. To you, it's just a pendant you put upon your fez. But to me, it's earthly and divine salvation, because we're all going to return to Allah. Again, you're assisting the colonization, the lower self. You represent the Byzants upside down, the tools of the mind, not just for wood or stone. because the hardest rock is called the Moorish rock, and they say it's harder than granite. It's the foundation which Noble Drew Ali stepped his foot on to save humanity from the cares of the world. One of their authorities was being an honorary member of the Orient of France. Well, I have an honorary member with the Moorish Science Temple, which is the Moorish government. They have constitution and bylaws, and they're the descendants of the Moroccans born in America who recognized the U.S. to allow them to do commerce at the ports and maybe 2 miles in if they're good. So that supersedes any of their third-party honorary memberships. It supersedes it, because they was trying to get affiliation with someone who was trying to colonize, but not from the Moorish tree root. We have honorary membership with the tree root of the Moorish Science Temple, with the Grand Sheiks who have an actual charter from the hands of Noble Drew Ali to Emiliel from Chicago. Grand Sheiks taking the Hajj to Mecca, because Chicago is the Mecca for the Muslims in America. And there is sacred land there that to this day, Allah has not left a brick standing. Noble Drew Ali is from the bloodline of the Ali that set up the Shriners for the Paleskins to set their house in order. And y'all don't even know where his places is where you can go take your Hajj to Mecca in the Americas. I also have on my desk the minutes stating that the daughters of Pike shall hold standing in the jurisdiction through bloodline. And I have Rebecca Jane Pike. I have Lizzie Bell Pike. Those are my ancestors on the soul plane that's ready to do whatever they got to do. The winds are moving, and may Allah bring his award for your injustice upon your head swiftly. But again, if you wish to take a hold of the plow and find your degree, we can find your degree. It may be low, it may be high, but it's right where you need to be to solve your problems. If not, then I guess that's just too bad. And we haven't even got into the letters I have in regards to Albert Pike speaking about them selling degrees. That's what's going on in the Moorish society right now. People trying to sell degrees. You can't sell degrees. You'll pay for it, but that don't mean that you can interpret it. Only seeking truth, only asking Allah to be your protection, your guide and salvation, so you can be guided and interpret the Gnosis. So you can buy them all you want, but that don't mean you're going to understand them, or that don't mean that it's going to work within your daily life. Which in this matter, it was Mr. Kernel, which I assume his bloodline was the Cornish. But the Cornish temple here, we do not sell degrees. It's impossible, because we learned from the beginning that your money will burn up in your pocket and justice will swiftly come upon your head. Albert Pike stated, if this is even Freemasonry at all. So I'm willing to build with whoever is not a fool, whoever has an intelligent tone, whoever don't have a motive to try to sway me on my thinking. I'm willing to build. You can contact me at thecornishtemple@gmail.com, all lowercase. Again, I'm willing to build with anyone who is not a fool or trying to convert me or sway me to think another way. But today's Tuesday and my scimitar is sharp, my friend, and without a foe, a man never knows his strength. I yield the floor.